Welcome to Franchising Stronger Together. I'm your host, Red Boswell, president of IFPG, the International Franchise Professionals Group. We're here talking with franchise leaders about how they've responded, how they've been impacted, any insights, any suggestions they have as we go through this crazy pandemic and exit on the other side stronger and closer and just a better organization all around. Today, we're joined by our good friend Aaron. Aaron Chaitovsky is with a partner with Citrin Cooperman. Aaron, we appreciate you jumping on here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invite, Red. I appreciate it.
So you're in Long Island. How are you and the family holding up?
Well, we're holding up well. We're staying safe, making my home my office, obviously, like everyone else seems to be doing. It's a definitely different way to look at business right now. What we're trying to do is I've moved myself out of my office environment in my home, moved up to one of my boys' rooms just to get a different feel. I shouldn't feel like it's office every day. I definitely get up every morning, shower, shave, put on a dress shirt, so at least I feel like I'm working. It's not the same, humdrum that people are used to. But unfortunately, I've been blessed with a lot of grandchildren and a large family, and that's what I miss the most. Being safe is one thing. Not being able to hug the grandchildren has been very, very difficult. Hugging the computer is just not the same. But, it's a start. And unfortunately, some of them don't understand it. And frankly, neither do I. So, but we're doing okay. We're staying healthy and we're keeping ourselves isolated. And we're doing what we have to do in this, what seems to be the new norm right now.
Yes, and let's get back to as much of the old norm as soon as possible, especially the hugging of the family. Boy, I'm on the other side. I don't have grandkids yet, but boy, my parents, I love hugging them. Got to see them at least, but couldn't go up and give them that hug quite yet. So we'll get through this together. That's the title of this, Franchising Stronger Together. We got the hashtag. And Citrin Cooperman has a very unique perspective on what's going on out there. Help us understand who Citrin Cooperman is for those few people who aren't familiar with you. And then we can discuss some of the perspectives, some of the things you've been able to glean through this that maybe could be helpful to the community.
I appreciate that. And I'm an audit partner, as Red has said, I'm an audit partner here at Citrin Cooperman. We're a top 25 national accounting firm, and we have offices throughout the country. I'm the founder and co-chair of the firm's franchise accounting and consulting practice. I'm on the board of the IFA currently. I am also currently the chair of the Supplier Forum Advisory Board. And our firm focuses on accounting and consulting with franchisors and multi-unit franchisees. That's our main core business. Obviously, it's been a very, very hectic time right now. One thing that we have been doing, which is, I'm a big proponent of it, is our meetings, as this one is, are as face-to-face as often as possible. The old conference calls, you're not seeing them. Our whole business was visiting clients and going out to see clients, being there, seeing their reactions, showing we care for them. It's very hard to care over a phone. Even the face-to-face, people don't really see how much you care about what they do. And your passion of the industry doesn't really come out the same way as you would on those face-to-face meetings. And so that's been a big change right now with how we're operating. But we're keeping our people safe. We've got about 1,200 people in the firm, and they're all staying busy. Our firm is geared for doing this electronically, and that does work, but we still need that face-to-face. That's truly missing right now.
Well, Aaron, we certainly appreciate all you do at the IFA. I've seen you for years and years, if not decades, working there and just serving. You're out serving, you're giving back, and we appreciate it. Love your whole team. Bill is awesome. Michael Iannuzzi's awesome. Got to know them over the many years. You are blessed with the Rockstar team, my friend.
Absolutely.
I hardly know how to ask these questions because I talk to franchisors all the time. But you're my first really accounting firm to be able to interview. This perspective, we'll call it that. You've got an insight into an area that not many others are able to see into in the franchise realm, with no doubt hundreds and hundreds of franchisors and franchisees, even into the thousands, I imagine. What can you share with us about that impact and maybe any other advice or insights?
I think the largest area where I see a need is, obviously franchisors understanding the need to adapt. Sitting back, obviously the joint employer is a very big issue, but here's a situation where it's survival. And for a lot of the franchisees, they need to see support. They need to be adaptive. A lot of changes going on. Simple things such as we've got some of our franchisors who are smaller and can change their system easily. They spent a lot of time making sure that their online ordering systems actually work very seamlessly. Very often, I'm sure a lot of people out there are constantly ordering things online right now, ordering from restaurants. And anytime you put special instructions, well, put it over here. There's no space for that over there. If you're going to pick it up and pay in advance, put it here. And that's a problem. I mean, that's something that's calling adaptive, using technology and actually making it work. We've had franchisors that realized on the franchisee side, picking up from the location is great, but on those rainy days, making sure that there's a way to get it from the store directly to the curb, making arrangements to just the convenience of the final consumer. And during this time when it's been a little slower and people aren't coming into restaurants, they're reconfiguring the people they have working there. So they're accommodating these items. And it does make a difference. A lot of those chains, a lot of those franchisees are actually doing much better. They're streamlining what they do. They're reinventing some of the jobs of some of the people that were there beforehand. And look, this is going to go on, not to be pessimistic, but it's not going away in a year. This is something that's going to last for a while, most likely, and may redefine those stronger franchisees and the stronger franchisor systems.
There's so many similarities to 9/11, and some of us have scarred for life. We have truly been impacted, right? And I don't know that we'll see as many handshakes in the future. Now, it's not going to keep me, but there will be some folks that I reach out and go, "Hey, good to see you," and they go, "Hey, elbow," or "Hey, good to see you too." That's going to be forever. Some of that.
Well, if you recall, that's how it started. It started off with, when it was contagious, they said, don't shake hands, use the elbow shake. And that, as if that was going to cure this whole disease. And until they realized, it's a lot more severe than that.
Indeed. Indeed. Michael, jumping over to more your forte, FDD season. We're just like right in the middle of it. And you guys play a very significant part in getting those new FDDs up and running. Now we're getting some delay from the government's allowing us to delay the new FDDs, et cetera. Any insights there or suggestions?
Well, what's happened with a lot of the franchisors, we've been completing all the FDDs timely. We've got them out by April 30th for those that need to be out by April 30th. A number of the attorneys had held back, and it was more of a financial reason for some of the franchisors not having wanted to spend the money on the registrations. A number of them were also saying, I'm not selling franchises right now. Anyway, going dark is not an issue. The way we look at this for our clients is the audit aspect of what we do on the FDD. That needs to be completed earlier because you need those books closed. You need to get a good starting point for this year because you've got to spend a lot of this year right now and these last week or two forecasting what this year is going to look like. You've got to do a lot of work going forward. I know some people had gotten the information that the FASB had postponed, or they're about to confirm that they've postponed the adoption of 606 for another year. For a majority of our clients, we've already done those. The calculations have been done, and those have been adjusted. The reality is it's going to have to be done at some point in time. And, just pushing something off when things get busier, we don't know what the company's going to be like 6 months from now, 3 months from now. And our suggestion is, if you've got your financials completed, complete them, get ready for the FDD, work with your attorney on their advice as to whether you're going to file now or not, make sure the financials are completed. And from that point, start working on that forecast. I don't mean the next 8 weeks when you're getting the payroll protection plan money, but I'm talking about the first quarter of the year. The next quarter of the year, this forecast has to go out because you may get money for the next couple of weeks, but then how are you going to stay alive after that? You're in business not just for 8 weeks. You're in business for the long haul, and you really have to work on that forecast. And so we're advising our clients to get involved. If you can't do it, get help how to do it. You don't have to be accountants to understand the basics, but reach out to your accountants, your consultants, if there's an area that they can advise you on how you should structure this, what you should be looking for. That's critical right now. So if you're not filing your FTD, still make sure your financials are complete, make sure your years are closed, make sure you're going forward, and take a look at this plan for this coming year.
Well said indeed. So on the audits, you perform umpteen audits. I can only imagine how many. In a normal situation, a very small number of Zors will have a second audit in a year. They've got some significant updates they want to be able to disclose properly, so they do that second audit. You see the number of audits or the number of Zors needing to do or really wanting to do, probably should do a second audit this year compared to when they normally don't do a second audit?
Well, the second audit, it's typically not a second audit. What ends up happening is if they have to refile because of some sort of change that has to go into the FTD, there is some requirement for some subsequent event work that has to be done, updating information. And the truth is, because this pandemic is so fluid and the result in their business, information that may not have been disclosed earlier, all of a sudden is putting a very big twist on the financials going forward. You're also going to put a big twist on the FTD. Any FTDs out there going forward, some people are talking about COVID. From an accounting standpoint, there was a requirement after a certain date to put some language in there about COVID and the uncertainties due to COVID. But going forward, now you're talking about, you've had a lot of layoffs. You've got a lot of issues whether the company can actually continue as a going concern. There's a lot of considerations. If you're going to re-audit, and it's typically not a re-audit, it's an update of a previous financial. It's not something I'd say should be volunteered, but that's a great point you brought up, Red, because when you do eventually start reselling franchises, the whole concept of the FTD is to be transparent. And if you, for some reason, feel that whatever financials you issued for the December year end are going to be misleading to a prospective franchisee, I would suggest you do something so that you're not selling under the wrong premise.
Agreed. And that's exactly why I ask it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so,
you know, on the flip side too, for those Zors who folks may feel have significant changes, and the new franchise buyers are concerned about the strength financially of that Zor, it may behoove them on the positive side too to have that second audit just to prove, hey, we're transparent and we are strong and we're solid. And so I could see a second audit being needed to protect them on the bad side, as you mentioned, but also being as a sales tool, if you will, to prove that we're so transparent and so strong. We're going to do a second audit just to prove it.
I think, Red, that's an excellent point. And I think that in spite of doing a separate audit, getting some updated financial information, even internal financial information, when you sell going forward, I think would be very critical. And I think, look, that's something that the attorneys can advise as well, more so than the accountants. But I will tell you that transparency is everything. Even for the franchisees, going back to the franchisees that are opening up, I see a lot of them right now that are understanding that what's going to happen down the road is people are going to be coming to your location because they feel safe. If you're in the food industry, they're going to walk in there because they feel safe. I picked up some food from a restaurant not that long ago, and I was picking it up around closing time, paid for it in advance, had my mask, my gloves on, and my Havoc, the suit that you have to wear to make sure you're protected. And I paid in advance. I go to pick up the food, and they had a big glass window in the front of the restaurant. And closing time was 9:30. I was picking up the food by 9:25. And as I was picking up the food, I looked in, and two of the people sweeping up weren't wearing masks. And you look at that going, first of all, forget about what the requirement is, whether they had to or not. I just said to my wife, this is something that we're not going back there. I don't care if this is my favorite place to go. I'm never getting food there again if they're not taking that precaution. So I think what's happening is, as stores do begin to open, the concept of safety and transparency of the safety is going to be critical. If you see people coming out, there's some chains right now that are sealing packages inside the restaurant before it even leaves to go to your house. You're making sure everybody's wearing the gloves. Everything's being done. Gloves are changed. Masks are being worn. And I think right now I've got a couple of our clients that are installing cameras in their kitchen. And the idea is that not only do you order online, but you can actually see what's going on in the kitchen to give you a comfort of safety, so that when you go by there, and that's part of what they're doing during this time, trying to restructure it, knowing that that's going to be foremost on people's minds. And I think it's a great idea. I think that those types of things are definitely going to differentiate those stores that are going to be able to stay in business during this pandemic.
And beyond. That is a great example of, I think, what will be a new normal.
Yes.
That's not going to go away. That's a new concern that will be on people's minds for decades, permanently.
I agree.
On that, the audit topic and the FDD topic. So I'm talking to a lot of Zors that are going to be updating their item 19. Now, fortunately, item 19s don't have to be audited. They do need to be auditable, but they don't have to be audited. So that updating of the item 19 is certainly a much more expected for a lot of brands who have struggled, or maybe who have been, again, thought to have struggled. And so for them to be able to show that transparency to ease the concerns of the buyers, but also to protect them from the legal ramifications should they not disclose those significant updates to their model and to their franchisees' bottom lines. Critical topic.
It's critical this year, and probably even more critical next year, when you're disclosing in your item 20 as well, the stores that have closed, the stores that have temporarily closed. You're listing which stores are going to be open going forward, and you're going to have a lot of gaps in that item 19. There's no requirement to be filed for that to be prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. You do have to have support for it. You do have to report a certain way on it, which is required by NASA. But there is a lot of information. And look, I know there's some people who look at that saying, this is a great way to go get financing for your franchise. I've always looked at it, and our team always looks at it as, this is the best place to be transparent. Give information that a prospective franchisee would want to know. It's very nice that you have something in there showing what happens when you're open after all those that are open for 12 months or more, is how they do. But I think more importantly is, how long does it take to ramp up? Something a franchisee would like to see. This is how long it took our current franchisees to ramp up. This is what they did in 6 months. This is what they did in a year. Just the idea so people know that's what they have to expect. And I always tell people that franchisees, or anybody for that matter, one of the issues people have is surprises. Okay? And surprises tend to change everyone's attitude because they react to the surprise versus what the actual news is. And if you tell someone you're going to lose $100,000 this coming year, and they lose $100,000, they'll be disappointed because they thought they'd do better. But the truth is, they kind of deep down knew it was coming. If you tell them you're going to break even, they lose $100,000, they're not going to deal with it. Okay. And the idea is, that's what it is. This item 19 is a transparency. It's a perfect vehicle for transparency. Use it the way it was meant to be. The examiners look at this. Franchisees look at this. Banks do look at it, but they would also rather you be transparent versus trying to make it look like a beautiful picture.
Tell you who else looks at it, those attorneys. They love to, and the financial performance representations that may have been made outside of it. Tomorrow I'm doing a webinar for 100+ franchisors in the UK. And the guys over there, the FranDev folks in Europe, have no clue how different an environment it is compared to the US. The consumer protection laws and regulations around our FDD and the disclosures and the performance representation, I talk to them about it. It blows their minds. And so anyway, that's getting off topic, but boy, we are in some uncharted territory, and it makes it so much better to go through it with folks like you and friends in franchising, building a stronger, we're all closer together. It's been funny going to these happy hours and these Zoom calls within the industry, and even our franchisee Zoom calls, and we're touching less, we're seeing each other eye to eye in person less, but we feel closer than ever just through all this support we're giving to one another.
No, that is true. The only thing that we miss terribly, especially as accountants, we're accountants, but we feel that once we were joined and became a part of the franchise community, you're right. We're not accountants. We're franchise crazed people. Okay, you have this certain passion that comes out with people who have the same likes and dislikes you do, and we just it's very energetic. I tell people, you go to a franchise convention, you leave there on a high because everyone's so optimistic and it's great. It's a great industry. It's a great way of doing business. And the people in it are wonderful. I mean, the people you deal with all the time, it's been a great experience. And the one thing I miss, yes, these calls are great, and having those Zoom calls that we go on are great. I miss the face-to-face captive audience where we can all go there and kind of, just be together. And this doesn't replace it. And that part's sad.
It is sad.
I can't wait for those days going back that when you see one of these conventions, you see a multi-unit show canceled, or you see a, even legal symposium, any of these events that are no longer taking place, the franchise expo coming up, those are the types of things where these were great opportunities, not just for us to go around to prospect, even get some business, but it was a great opportunity for us to meet and spend time with our own clients. We have clients all over the world, and that was a great opportunity. And we're very blessed, all of us, that we were able to get the franchise convention. The 2020 franchise convention took place before this whole pandemic started. That would have been a disaster, but we're thankful for that. And hopefully we'll see that again in hopefully the near future, or whenever it's meant to be.
So Aaron, do you know what your first franchise-related trip is going to be at this point?
Well, right now we're still set. Not sure it's going to happen, but there's still something coming up in September and October. The two events coming up in September and October, and we'll see what ends up with those. Right now, they're still on target. There's one in Philadelphia in September that we usually go to.
Yeah. And multi-unit's still on, right? I mean,
multi-unit is still on. That's right.
It's first week of September. Yeah.
Right. Multi-unit's still on. We've got the IFE they plan on having something at Javits Center in October.
We'll be there. Yeah. And our event's right after it, October 5 through 7 in Florida. Phoenix Franchise Expo West is the second week of September. So we're, fingers crossed and saying our prayers that those continue moving forward.
And I think we have to keep planning those. I think, to just cancel everything for the next year and a half. The only problem with that is as an accountant, I'm on the IFA. I'm also on the Budget and Finance Committee of the IFA. One thing that we look at very carefully, yes, I know. One thing I look at very carefully, obviously, is if you have a convention or an event that's taking place in October, you're planning it now. And you're committing funds to it now. And you're committing funds typically to a location, a hotel, somebody in the hospitality industry that's hurting terribly. So it's very, very difficult to try to maneuver that. And we have to make the decisions. And I don't envy those people who have to make those decisions to keep things going, but you got to be positive. Look, I'm a true believer that, first you have to survive and then you thrive. So work on your own house, make sure that you've got things in order. And then we got to just look forward to thriving. That's a need. And we can't just sit back and say, well, wait till the governor opens up the country. Got to find other ways around it.
You got to put food on the table today.
Yes.
Aaron, as we wrap up, boy, you've given a lot of insights and advice on different areas and things that most folks don't have purview of. Any additional advice or predictions, insights that would benefit the franchisor community?
Well, I have one concern, and that is a lot of people are being handed money on the PPP. And they all know the criteria, how you're supposed to spend it, what it's supposed to be used for. It's meant to protect, it's payroll protection. And I think my fear is a lot of these people that may not be astute business people when it comes to cash, long-term cash, but are fantastic business people in running a business. It's a different skill set to make sure that you're spending that money accurately and correctly, tracking how you're spending it, making sure that it's just not an 8-week fix, but rather I'm looking forward to the future. And it really behooves every single franchisee out there and every business out there to really sit down, work on that 13, 15, 18-week cash flow for your business and actually see how this is going to fit into it with these people coming payroll. You're going to be getting money now. Right now, it hasn't been changed. That 8-week period is going to fall in a period where you can't even bring employees back. You're just going to be paying the payroll. You're not benefiting from necessarily from a payroll standpoint of having your business run. But you've got to look past that and say, okay, once that money comes in, I hire the payroll. I don't want to be in a situation where I've got to now fire them the next day. Figure out how this is going to work, redefine your business. Don't wait for the country to come back the way it was. You really have to be proactive. Take a look at your business, but before anything, that cash forecasting is critical. Critical. And as I said before, if you know how to do it, it's not difficult, but if you need help or advice, reach out to your consultants, reach out to your accountants, and just get some tips on it without becoming an accountant, but really focus on that. That's going to be critical for survival.
Great words of wisdom, Aaron. I have really been looking forward to this conversation and your insights. Thank you, Aaron Chaitovsky with Citrin Cooperman, sharing insights, giving advice, discussing franchising. Hope you've been blessed by it as I have. Aaron, look forward to seeing you in person as soon as possible and getting that handshake and that hug.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you.